Hey guys, Jeff, and welcome to today's video. So today we're going to talk about this guitar. Finally, I've been wanting to make this video for a while. This is a guitar that I've been getting a lot of comments and a lot of questions about because it's kind of a striking looking guitar. It's a pretty funky color. For those of you who know what this is, it's quite a rare guitar. So I figured today I would just talk about my Tom Delonge Strat, or I should really say talk about my Tom Delonge replica Strat that I built myself. I'll put this as a disclaimer at the beginning of the video, but this is not a real Tom Delonge Strat, as it's been pointed out in a few videos. It's actually a replica that I built. So today I thought I'd talk about this and just go over some of the details about building it and some of the details about what it is and sort of the reasoning behind all of it. Hopefully answer all the questions that you guys ever had and ever will have about this guitar. Now, Tom has had two signature guitars over his career. He's had this, and he's also had a Gibson ES333, which can easily be bought as an Epiphone version, which I conveniently have right here. But before he had the Gibson, he had a Fender Strat signature model, which is this thing right here, or at least this is based on what his signature model was like. The model essentially came in three colors. There was a yellow, there was a Daphne blue, and there was a surf green. This one, I guess, would be more closely related to the surf green one, but it's not the actual color code. So the original guitar also came with a Seymour Duncan Invader in white, which is this very striking looking pickup with the huge pull pieces. It also came with this larger CBS style headstock. So for those of you not as familiar with the Fender headstock design, this is called a CBS style, so it's a little thicker, a little fatter. In comparison, the original Fender headstock will be something a little thinner like this. So about 7 years ago, I bought the Epiphone ES333 that I showed you a few seconds ago, and I wanted to get the Fender version as well because I'm a huge Tom Delonge fan, for those of you who don't know that. So I started looking into them in about 2013, I would say. Really, the reason why I didn't is because I thought they were very expensive for what they were. So I ended up looking into other options. So another thing I could have done, and that's something I looked into, was to get a Squire model and upgrade that. But even the Squire models do carry quite a bit of a premium, so they still would have cost quite a lot of money to get the Squire and then upgrade the pickup and the tuners and everything. So that didn't really make much sense to me. The other thing I could have done is buy like a seafoam green Mexican Strat, like a normal Strat. I get a different pickguard and the pickup in it, but then it wouldn't have had the CBS style headstock. I don't believe that at that time anyway there really was a Mexican Fender that had this headstock that I wanted. I think a few Squires had it, but that's about it. I also could have gone completely Chinese and bought a fake Tom Delonge and just changed out the major parts. For Strats in particular, buying a fake Chinese guitar isn't functionally a big deal because it's quite easy to replicate and the guitar would be fine. I just don't really like encouraging the counterfeit Chinese shops, so I didn't end up doing that. Even though I did buy a fake PRS because I wanted to make a video series about it, which I ended up never doing, but that's another story. So ultimately I decided that the best thing I could do is build my own. I had an old J. Tercer guitar that was like a Strat knockoff that was broken in half a few years prior, and I still had parts of the body and some hardware from it. So I figured I can probably salvage some of that and create a new guitar out of it, which ended up being this thing. So the first thing I did was buy a neck off eBay. Now I believe this is a Squire neck because it has the designed and bagged by Fender on the back. It could potentially be a Warmoth neck too, but I don't believe that the Warmoth necks have that on the back. I think they have the license by Fender on the heel, which this doesn't have. I believe this is a Squire neck of some description. The tuners are knockoff Spertzel locking tuners. Again, they do the trick. They were pretty cheap. Body, as I said, are two pieces of a J. Tercer body that I broke in half, and the middle part is just a block of oak that I glued the sides to and ultimately just reshaped into the correct shape. The pickguard is something I got off eBay, so I was pretty lucky on that one. I was looking for like a Strat pickguard blank of some description, and the first thing that came up was this thing, which was already cut for the single humbucker, so that's where I got that. The bridge came from the J. Tercer as well as the output cover. In the back it has legit Fender ferrules. Doesn't have a neck plate. I bought one later, but since I had sort of drilled it wrong, I decided to just leave it like that. And of course the centerpiece is the Seymour Duncan Invader. That one is a legit Seymour Duncan Invader. Since it was going to be like the key piece out of all this build, I figured that one really needed to be the legit thing. The guitar also has a little party piece that the real Delonge doesn't. It's just a coil split. so I can essentially split the coils and have it run as a single coil, or leave it as is and have it run as a humbucker. Kind of makes sense that I can get more tones out of it even though it only has one pickup and one volume. Now the paint I got for it is this basic acrylic paint that I got at a art supply store. It's not the real Tom DeLonge color. It's a little darker than the real surf green. This is called Verde Aqua Green. Obviously if I had wanted it to be exactly perfect, I would have gotten the correct color code, but I just eyeballed it in the store and this looked pretty close, and on the guitar I can't say I'm disappointed. I think it looks pretty good with that. Probably comes out on camera as quite a bit brighter than the real thing, which ultimately isn't a bad thing. Originally I was gonna leave the body unfinished for a little while, relic itself naturally, basically over a couple months, and then I would have covered it in lacquer. In the end, the acrylic paint is really soft to the touch and I really like the way it feels, so I ended up just leaving it at that. Probably what'll end up happening with this guitar is as it ages, eventually the paint is gonna really start stripping off of this portion especially. So what I'll probably do is just give it another coat. It'll eventually just go from really bright to like a little more dull and worn out to a little more bright and a little more worn out again. So it'll go in and out of color like that over the years. But yeah, overall it's been 6 years since I've had this thing, and I guess a question that a lot of people have is, would I recommend building your own replica of a guitar like this? Now there's really two ways you can go about this. On the one side, if I had bought this guitar, like the real Tom DeLonge signature, back in 2013 when I started looking into it, it would be worth basically twice what I would have paid for back then. The way things are going right now, I don't really think that the prices are going to drop or even cap. Like right now, a good example of those is probably around $1,200, and I don't think that's going to end there. I think it's going to probably still rise to about $1,500 or $1,600 US before it eventually levels off. I think there will be enough demand. There weren't a lot of models produced and they're quite old now. A lot of them, I think, since they were fairly cheap originally, they weren't like a high-end custom shop thing or even an American. They were Mexican made. I think a lot of people got them and didn't really take good care of them, and a lot of them got ruined or destroyed or lost. It's probably a good idea to grab one now. I think it's still going to gain some value. If you had one of the original runs back in the days, or if you bought them, 10 years ago for a decent price, definitely hold on to those for a little while longer because they're going to be worth more. In my case, this was always going to be a forever guitar because I'm such a huge Tom fan, so I don't really see myself ever selling this. So to me, the fact that this guitar is essentially worthless and very playable, very nice, looks like the real thing, sounds like the real thing, but is worth mostly nothing, to me is actually a plus because I'm much more comfortable bringing it around and gigging it. Like if I broke it for some reason, I could just rebuild it and repaint it. I've done it before and I can do it again. Obviously, I built it in a way that it would always be apparent from up close that it wasn't the real deal. So the Fender logo on the headstock is just the printed out piece of tape that I stuck there. I didn't want to make that look too good. I didn't try to get like a plate with the Tom DeLonge signature thing there to try to fool people. I didn't try to make the finish perfect, get the actual real color and, do the perfect finish. I just wanted it to be a functional, good looking guitar that, from stage distance would look like a real thing, but no one would ever try to pass that off as a fake, basically. Because whenever you build a guitar, there's two things you have to consider is what your intent is, and you have to understand that at some point, no matter what your intentions are, these guitars are going to find their way out into the world. So either you get into a bad spot financially, or you get sick, or you die, or whatever happens. At some point, this guitar is not going to be in my possession anymore, and I wouldn't want that my work be used as counterfeit product, basically. And the intent is not to infringe on Fender's property or anything like that. I don't see this kind of homemade replica project as really infringement in the sense that this guitar has been out of production for many years and it's not like it's costing Fender anything that I built one. Where I think it would be a bit dishonest, as I said, is if I tried to build it in such a way that it came off as the real thing to try to make a quick buck off it, then yeah, that for sure would be wrong. But in this case, I just try to build something that looked nice and in the same spirit, so I don't think there's a big issue with that. But anyways, guys, that's been it for me. I hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope this answers the questions that you may have had about this guitar. Now, I'm not going to play it in the video. There are plenty of videos on the channel where I play with this guitar, so you can just go scrolling down in my video list. If you haven't already subscribed, make sure to click the subscribe button. You can click the like button as well if you like the video, and I will see you Sunday for the next music video. Peace, guys.